everyone, Emily B here with Grandma B's Mini Treats, and I am baking in my home kitchen today one of my most favorite recipes, and that is the classic fudge brownie. Yep. Every baker of any skill level needs to have a good brownie recipe in their back pocket, and it's perfect all year round. And this is my favorite. It's actually a recipe that's based on the Hershey's Best Brownie recipe. You can find it on their website. It's a fantastic recipe. I've just made a few tweaks to make it a little bit more my style and something that I like a little bit better. And one of those tweaks today is going to be using gluten-free flour. I'm not necessarily a gluten-free baker, but I like to have a few gluten-free and dairy-free recipes in my back pocket when you need it. And this particular batch of brownies will be for my husband again, going on a hunting trip with some friends that are gluten-free. And you can call me crazy, but I actually think the gluten-free flour works better in a brownie recipe. It's something to do with how it works with the chocolate that really makes the chocolate seem a little bit richer. Okay, so let's talk about some of our other ingredients. Like I said, I use the Bob's Red Mill 1-to-1 gluten-free flour almost exclusively. It seems to work best texture-wise for me. I even used it in the Silo's baking competition in my episode for my gluten-free churro-flavored Twinkies, AKA the beige log. So I love it, and I know a lot of other bakers love it as well. But you can use any gluten-free recipe, and you can use regular flour, whatever you prefer. In terms of cocoa powder, I also happen to use a slightly different kind for my brownies. A regular dark cocoa powder is great. Anything you've got is great. I use a Ghirardelli premium cocoa powder that has some cocoa butter in it. Just makes things a little bit richer maybe, I think. I don't know. I just happen to like it. Then we will use sugar, butter, salted butter actually. And if you only have unsalted, then you can go ahead and increase the salt a little bit that we'll use, because we will use salt and baking powder with the flour, a couple teaspoons of vanilla, 4 eggs, and then at the very end, I like to mix in some chocolate chips. And you can use whatever kind of chocolate chips you want. I use milk chocolate chips. You can also add in nuts if you're a nut person. I am not a nut person. Most of my family is a nut person, but my husband lets me get away with making this particular brownie nut-free, just because if we're giving it to other people, to be safe. But if you must, feel free to add the nuts of your choice. Okay, so I think we're good on ingredients. Let's go ahead and get things started. About our ingredients. We've got 1 cup of butter in a pot with 2 cups of sugar. We'll melt that together in a minute. We're going to use 2 teaspoons of vanilla and 4 eggs, room temperature of course, 3/4 cups of cocoa powder. Then whisked together, we will use 1 cup of flour, in this case gluten-free flour, 1/2 teaspoon baking powder, 1/4 teaspoon salt. And at the very end, we will use 1 cup of milk chocolate chips. We'll start by first melting our 1 cup of butter with our 2 cups of sugar on the stovetop on medium-low heat until fully combined and you see a bubble or two pop together. Then we will put this into a separate bowl. This helps cool the mixture down just a little bit so we don't cook our eggs when we mix them in or cook off the vanilla that we're going to add. We're going to go ahead and add our eggs. We'll use 4 eggs and we will add them one at a time, and I beat them by hand. You of course can use a stand mixer or hand mixer. I just prefer to be a little bit more gentle with my brownie mix. This will take a little bit because we want each egg to be completely incorporated before we move on. Once we've got all of our eggs incorporated, we're going to go ahead and add in our 2 teaspoons of vanilla. And this will want to fully incorporate, and at this point the mixture is cool enough where there should be no cook-off of the vanilla at all. We'll be adding our cocoa powder, and we are going to beat this until completely combined and we have a nice, thick, chocolatey looking batter.
Once the cocoa powder is fully incorporated, we will add in our flour, baking powder, and salt mixture in 3 parts and beating again until completely incorporated, no flour residue left on the bottom of the bowl, and our mixture is completely incorporated. Lastly is our chocolate chips, and this just gets lightly stirred in until combined and not clumped together. We are now ready for our bake. I'm going to pour our batter into a 9 by 13 pan that's been lined with parchment paper. I'm using a metal pan. You can use a glass or ceramic, whatever you've got. You can also use an alternate size. Just fill the pan about halfway full of your batter. I find a metal pan helps the brownies rise and be a little bit fluffy, but any pan will work. We're going to go ahead and bake the brownies in an oven that's been preheated to 350 degrees for approximately 30 to 35 minutes. I'll rotate the brownies halfway through and I'll start checking for doneness around 30 minutes. I check for doneness by inserting a toothpick about an inch in from the edge of the brownie. If it comes out clean, I consider it done. You, of course, can bake them a little bit longer if you like them a cakier, or you can bake them a little bit less if you like an undercooked brownie. I will let these cool completely to room temperature before I cut or wrap them in any way. I always like to cut a small piece for myself for a taste test, of course, and also to make sure it's the texture that I want and that the chocolate chips have been incorporated fairly evenly. You should see a nice fudgy brownie with chocolate chips interspersed throughout the brownie.
Well, thank you for baking with me today. I hope your brownies turned out well and they're as delicious as I think they are. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them in the video comment section and I'll try to get back to you. If you can believe it, after that last shot, this is all I have left of those brownies because my husband immediately swooped them up to leave for his hunting trip. But I'm still pretty happy with my little end bits that I have. It has a good texture, nice and rich, some good chocolate chips in there. That chocolate flavor for a gluten-free brownie really pops. These keep super well in the freezer, so you can pop them in the freezer, uncut or cut, just wrap them up super tight, bring them out whenever you're ready for some brownies, and you'll be able to enjoy them.